Hello friends, in the last video we have discussed about various definitions of Six Sigma, difference between 3 Sigma and 6 Sigma, organizational requirement for 6 Sigma implementation, what is DMAX cycle all about, financial benefits of implementing Lean Six Sigma, and few basic Six Sigma metrics. In this video we will discuss and understand below topics: what is business process, what are business systems and goals. We'll continue discussion on Six Sigma metrics. We'll understand basic concept of Lean. Then we'll discuss on integration of Lean with Six Sigma. And finally, we'll discuss and understand few basic Lean metrics. So friends, let's begin. Let's first understand what is business process. Business process is a series of steps designed to produce product and services. Business process is often represented in the form of flowchart showing various input, the path which material or information follows, and various output process produces. Let's understand this with the help of an example. Say for example, to execute a vacation plan for a family, the person in charge of family must book a flight and hotel, then pack their bags, reach to airport, and then check in to the airport and board the desired aeroplane. They should exit the plane at destination airport, then they should reach to hotel and then move into the room and unpack their bags. These process steps can be represented in the form of a flowchart shown here. This flowchart has starting and end event, and each step is represented in the form of activity or process step. Let's discuss about another example. For passengers to check in at airport, an employee of a passenger services check their tickets and luggage, inquires about their seat preference using IT system or computer, and finally passenger receives their boarding pass with reserved seat and entry gate marked on it. This can be represented in the form of flowchart shown here. Let's see one more example about process flowchart. Then passenger goes through security check, then wait for boarding at specified gate or defined gate, and then finally board aeroplane. Again, this can be represented in the form of flowchart shown here. Friends, remember, business processes are always completed in several steps. These steps are referred as sub-processes or activities. Let's understand this with the help of another example. A passenger packs his luggage before he or she arrives at the airport. The employee of passenger services at the check-in counter can issue a boarding pass only after check-in is completed for a passenger. Friends, also remember, activities or sub-processes can follow sequential or parallel path. Let's understand this with the help of another set of examples. So, passenger can buy a bottle of whiskey in the duty-free shop while his or her luggage is being loaded into the aeroplane. So friends, finally please note, understanding and improving process is a key part of each Six Sigma project. Friends, now let's discuss about business systems and goals. Business system is designed to implement a process or set of processes. Business system ensure that process input are in the right place at the right time so that each step of the process has required resources. The objective or goal of a business system is a continual improvement of its processes, product and services. Also, business system is responsible for collecting and analyzing data from the processes to help in the continual and incremental improvement of the processes. Friends, also do note that each part of a system can be divided into series of processes. Each of process would contain multiple sub-processes, and each of sub-process would consist of series of steps or tasks. This can be represented here with the help of this diagram. So each business system will contain multiple processes. Each process has multiple sub-processes, and each sub-process consists of several process steps or activities. Friends, now we are going to discuss about a few more basic Six Sigma metrics in the upcoming slides. We are going to discuss and understand about FPY or first pass yield, roll throughput yield, classic yield, hidden factory, and few basic lean metrics. Let's start the discussion with FPY. FPY stands for first pass yield. FPY is calculated as the number of good units produced divided by total number of units going into the or going inside the process. So mathematically FPY is calculated as total units which are defects free divided by total number of units entered into the process. Let's understand this with the help of a business system which has 4 processes into it, namely process A, B, C and D. Initially 100 units are going into process A and 90 units are coming out. So FPY becomes 0.9 or 90%. In the process B, 90 units are going into it and 80 units are coming out. So FPY here becomes 0.89 or 89%. Next, in the process C, 80 units are going into it and only 75 units are coming out. Here FPY comes to be 0.94 or 94%. Finally, in the last process, 75 units are going into it and only 70 units are coming out. So in this case, FPY becomes 0.93 or 93%. Total FPY for this business system is calculated as multiplication of FPY of each process. So total FPY for this business system comes to be 0.70. The other way to calculate total FPY percentage for entire business system is by simply dividing total count of good units coming out at the end of a business system divided by total number of units entering into a business system. Friends, now let's discuss and understand about RTY. RTY stands for roll throughput yield. This is the probability that single unit can pass through a series of process steps without a defect. Let's understand the RTY with the help of another example. Let's consider a business system with 4 processes into it, namely process A, process B, process C and process D. So process A has 100 units going into it and 90 units coming out of it. Whereas 10 units are scrapped, 5 units were reworked. So in this case, throughput yield for process A comes to be 0.85 considering the 5 units of rework done. So next, in the case of process B, we have 90 units going into it and 80 units coming out of it, wherein again in this case we have 10 scraps, 5 units as a rework. So again in this case throughput yield comes out to be 0.83 or 83%, calculated as 75 divided by 90. So next, in the case of process C, after considering 5 rework, we have 80 units going into it and 75 units coming out of it. So again in this case we have 5 units as a scrap and 3 units rework. So considering 5 units scrap and 3 unit rework, throughput yield is calculated here as 72 defect free units coming out of process C divided by 80 units going into the process. Now in the case of last process, process D, we have 75 units going into process D and 70 units coming out of process D. But for throughput yield calculation, we know there are 5 scrap and 3 rework. So defect free units coming out of process D are only 67 So in this case, throughput yield is calculated as 67 divided by 75 comes out to be 0.89 or 89%. So friends, finally, roll throughput yield is calculated as that is multiplication of throughput yield of process A, process B, process C and process D, which comes out to be a 0.56%. So friends, here you can compare with the first pass yield. Friends, let's discuss and understand about classic yield now. Classic yield doesn't consider the rework in a process, and necessary additional parts are produced to match the initial units entered in a process. Let's consider the similar example with three processes, namely process A, process B and process C. Process A has 100 units going into it and same number of units are coming out. Process A has produced 1 scrap and 4 rework, but to match the initial number of units entered in a process, 4 units are reworked and 1 additional unit is produced. In this case, classic yield comes out to be 99%, calculated as 99 divided by 100. In the same way, process B has 1 scrap and 2 rework. So in the case of process B, again classic yield comes out to be a 99%. Now in the case of process C, we have 1 scrap and 1 rework out of 100 units entered into the process. Again classic yield comes out to be a 99%, calculated as 99 divided by 100. Please note, in the case of each process, 1 additional part is produced to match the initial number of units entering into the process or into the system. So in this case, overall classic yield comes out to be 0.97%, which is calculated by multiplying classic yield of each process. The classic yield or this calculation ignores all the resources invested in the rework of part and production of additional part. Friends, now let's discuss and understand the very important concept known as hidden factory. Hidden factory is maximum amount of additional product that can be extracted or unlocked without any capital investment. Hidden factory is theoretical or ideal case of round-the-clock perfect production, manufacturing only good pieces as fast as possible without any downtime, every hour and every day. This term was originally introduced by Armand V. Feinbaum in the late 1970s. Initially, the concept only focused on quality and waste caused by defective product, but now it includes all the forms of waste in the manufacturing. Friends, now let's discuss and understand how big is a hidden factory. To understand, let's first calculate fully productive time. It represents how close you are to perfect production, that is manufacturing only good part as fast as possible without any downtime. So fully productive time is a multiplication of good pieces and ideal cycle time. Good pieces are nothing but product or services that pass through the manufacturing process without any defect or rework. Ideal cycle time is the theoretically fastest possible cycle time your process can achieve under ideal or optimum conditions. Then we calculate hidden factory by subtracting entire available time, that is 24/7. Then we calculate hidden factory by subtracting total available time by fully productive time. Hidden factory actually represents the unutilized capacity of your manufacturing plant. Hidden factory considers all 4 types of lost time: schedule time loss, availability loss, performance loss, and quality loss. These factors, these factors we will again discuss in the concept of overall equipment effectiveness. Friends, now understand various loss factors and their impact on hidden factory. Let's first understand about schedule loss. Schedule loss is a time when the plant is not scheduled for production. Example, plant shutdown, breaks, lunches, etc. Availability loss is a time where production should be running but actually it is not running. Performance loss is a time where production is running but not as fast as it should run. And finally, quality loss is a time where production is running but one or more pieces are defective in the first pass. Friends, now let's continue discussion on basic lean concept. Let's start with the understanding VA or value added activities. Value added activities are those activities which adds value to a business process or product and for which customer is willing to pay. Value added activity helps in converting a product from raw material to finished product in the least possible time and the least possible cost. Let's understand this with the help of one simple example. Let's understand this with the help of a product life cycle, starting with sales and marketing activity, then order activity, then handle paperwork, design and order parts, then actually produce or make a product, pack and store product, dispatch or send a product to customer specified address, handle any other related paperwork, raise an invoice to a customer, chase customer for payments or any other issues like credit debit notes and monthly reports, and finally process is completed when customer has paid for the product which he has received. Now let's understand the another concept, NVA, or called as non-value added activities. NVA or non-value added activities are those activities which do not add any value to the product or services but are inherent part of the process. Let's understand this with the help of another example. Let's see each step in this example. First step is calling the forklift after first side operation, then loading the component on forklift, then moving the forklift from production to NDT or non-destructing testing inspection cell. Then once product is reached to NDT inspection cell, unloading the component, then preparing the equipment and part, then actually performing NDT inspection, then preparing the report, cleaning the component, updating the system, again calling for forklift, again loading the component and moving back the component from NDT inspection area to production cell, and then finally unloading the component. So friends, here in the set of total activities you can see NDT inspection is the only value added activities, and in the yellow color are essential and necessary activities to perform a value adding activities. The 7 waste like overproduction, inventory, waiting, unnecessary movements and motion, unnecessary transportation, rework and overprocessing are all examples of non-value added activities. Now briefly let's understand what is the lean or what is the lean management. Lean management or lean is a concept which is aimed at maximizing customer value while minimizing waste in a process. The foundation of lean is all about eliminating the process or processes which do not bring or add value to product. There are 3 key pillars of a lean, namely delivering value from customer's perspective, eliminating waste again from customer's perspective, and continuously improving the processes to better serve the customers. Friends, now let's understand about integration of Lean and Six Sigma. Let's assume you are using Lean and Six Sigma techniques standalone way or separately. So in this case, please note, using Lean or Six Sigma alone has its own limitation. When Six Sigma is eliminating defects, while Six Sigma is eliminating defect, it will not address the problem of process flow optimization. Whereas Lean principle doesn't include the advanced statistical tools required to achieve the process capabilities. Whereas Lean principles doesn't include the advanced statistical tools needed to achieve the various process capabilities. Therefore, it is advised to use both the methods simultaneously to address all types of process problems. The integrated approach to process improvement using Lean and Six Sigma will include first use of value stream mapping tool to develop a series of projects that would ultimately use Six Sigma or Lean tools. Then applying Lean principle first to increase the speed of a process, and then latter point of time or latter stage introducing the Six Sigma process to handle various advanced problems. From training perspective, the black belt will learn first how to apply Lean principle in the form of small and large project, and then he would learn various Six Sigma principles to solve advanced statistical problems. Friends, now let's understand various Lean factors, starting with availability. Availability is the ratio of runtime divided by planned production time. Runtime is calculated by subtracting various stoppages or downtimes from planned production time. So stop time is all times where manufacturing processes was intended to be running but was not running due to various unplanned stoppages like breakdown or planned stoppages like changeovers. Friends, now let's understand about another OE factor known as performance rate or speed. Performance rate or speed considers anything that causes the manufacturing process to run at less than the maximum or optimum speed, including various small stoppages. It is calculated as a ratio of actual speed to the ideal speed, or represented in the form of total count of product produced divided by runtime, and then finally dividing it by ideal machine speed. Here total count is nothing but unplanned scrapped plus acceptable or good pieces of products. Ideal speed is a maximum speed the part should be produced in a machine, and runtime is planned production time minus planned downtime. Friends, now let's understand the third OE factor known as quality. Quality considers the manufactured parts that do not meet quality standard, including parts that need rework. OE quality calculation is similar to first pass yield calculation, which we have discussed in previous slide. It is calculated as good number of pieces produced to the total number of pieces entering into a machine or a system. Friends, now let's understand the calculation of OE factor or overall equipment effectiveness factor. OE is calculated by multiplying three different factors, namely availability, performance and quality. So OE is a simple multiplication of availability, performance and quality, represented in the form of runtime divided by planned production time, which is nothing but availability factor. Then multiply it by total count of pieces produced divided by machine runtime, and then divided by idle speed of machine, which is nothing but performance rate or speed. and then finally multiplying it by good count of pieces produced to the total count of pieces entering into a machine, which comes out to be good count of pieces produced divided by planned production time divided by idle speed, or good count of pieces produced divided by multiplication of planned production time and idle speed. Friends, now let's understand the another lean metrics known as takt time. Takt time is the rate at which products or services should be produced to meet the rate of customer demand. Mathematically, it is represented in the form of a ratio of total production time available divided by required number of units as per customer demand. This word is derived from German word known as Taktzeit, which is referred to the heartbeat or drumbeat of a production. For example, there is a customer demand of 840 products per day and plant is running in 2 shifts. So in this case, available times comes out to be 16 into 60 is equal to 960 minutes minus planned downtime like lunch breaks and tea breaks, which is nothing but 60 into 2, 120 minutes. So finally available times comes out to be 840 minutes. So in this case, takt time will be calculated as a ratio of 840 divided by 840 comes out to be 1 minute per part. Friends, now let's understand the concept of cycle time. Cycle time is the time taken to produce 1 unit from the start to the end. It gives the idea on how much time it will take to complete the demand as per current rate. This is represented in the form of formula, which is represented as number of productive hours divided by total units produced. Say for example, in a 50 work hours for a week, 100 units are produced, then cycle time is calculated as 50 divided by 100, which comes out to be 0.5 hours per unit. Friends, I have used following references for this video: ASQ Six Sigma Black Belt Handbook, shmuller.com portal, isixsigma.com portal, and then sourcemaking.com portal for creation and preparation of this video. So friends, that's it for now. In the next video, we'll discuss on various Six Sigma roles and responsibility and different Lean Six Sigma applications. Till then, bye and thanks for watching. If you would have liked this video, don't forget to subscribe my channel and press on bell icon to get further notification and new video addition from my channel. Thanks for watching and bye.